cracking with you people?
We are back.
Nancy and Exton, and we just got done. Welcome back. Well, welcome back to Showtime Showcase. We just got done watching Avatar: The Last Airbender, episodes 10, 11, and 12. And while we're going to spend most of the episode talking about 12, I want to touch briefly on 10 and 11.
Yeah.
So these episodes were, episode 10 was about Jet. We first meet our roguish anti-hero Jet. And the interesting thing about this episode is that basically it touches upon the idea that just because you're fighting the bad guy doesn't mean you are necessarily the good guy.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting role reversal because you remember back in episode, I think it was like 4? Whatever episode they went to Kyoshi Island on. We see a role reversal where Katara's trying to encourage Sokka and Aang to leave early. Now it's Sokka encouraging Katara and Aang to leave early because his gut tells him something's not right.
Yeah.
They meet Jet. He's a freedom fighter. It's kind of an interesting twist on Robin Hood, where it's like they're fighting the rogue elements, but it turns out that once again they're all a bunch of kids. So it's Robin Hood. It's Robin Hood with a Peter Pan-esque twist.
Yeah.
Because once again, Peter Pan in the book, complete douchebag, but you know, in the movie they toned it down a bit. But yeah, so Jet is a freedom fighter. He's been fighting the Fire Nation inside this canyon, and he uses increasingly extremist techniques.
Yeah.
To the point where he goes from being a freedom fighter to a terrorist. Eventually, you know, Katara ends up getting a crush on him, pseudo crush, whatever it is. She's very charmed by him, and he uses that to get her and Aang to water bend some water for him to fill up a reservoir that he plans to detonate, flood the entire village, killing innocent people in order to free it of the Fire Nation.
Yeah.
Some sacrifices must be made. It's getting very strong Prince of Egypt flashbacks, if you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
You know, Sokka's the one who sees through it. He ends up escaping them. He saves people in the nick of time because what is happening is that earlier Jet threatens an old man. Sokka stops him.
Yep.
When Sokka goes to warn the village, they think he's a spy. The old man that Sokka saves stands up for him. So once again, no reversal on something with Katara from earlier, where she helped save an old man, but he sold the Earthbender out.
Yeah.
Oh
yes. I hated that old man.
Yeah. Nothing happened to that old man, but this one was, you know, he was more benevolent, and he was a Fire Nation individual.
Yeah.
So and the other guy was an Earth Nation. So you'd think that he'd be on the Earthbender side, but no. So we see an interesting role reversal, and we also see the muddying of the idea of good being evil.
Yeah.
You know. The next episode 11, is them going through. I think it's called the Divide.
Yes.
And it's you know, it's between two different clan factions. One is the Zhangs, one's the Ganjins. The Zhangs are very rough and tumble, kind of dirty. The Ganjins are very clean, prim and proper.
Yeah.
And in the episode is framed with disagreement between Katara and Sokka about how to gather firewood, how to set the tent, and Aang's being the mediator between these two, and he's being the mediator between these two factions as they go through. Both these factions do something wrong by carrying food into the canyon. They get the Earthbender guy hurt, and he ends up, you know, incapacitated. And we also see in this episode that if Aang was fully trained, or at least trained enough to use a few other bending styles, it'd be a much easier thing to handle. But because he's only trained in airbending as for the most part, and a little bit of water bending, he's not that effective against dealing with these otherwise insects by all things considered. We found out some backstory between the two clans. One claims that the other one wrongfully imprisoned one dude, and the other one claims that this one guy assaulted their dude. But it all revolves on this orb, and the episode ends with Aang telling a bold-faced lie to get these two to finally agree and put the past behind us.
I was like, you know what? I was like, that has got to be the most genius thing I've ever heard in my life. I'm like, yeah, I lied.
Yeah, Aang was so done with it. He's like, screw it, I'm lying to get this over and done with. I cannot put up with this anymore. And at the end, like, Sokka's the one who's like, you did not! And Katara's like, you know? That's devious. It's like, she approves! So we see like a slow shift in each of these characters' persona. Like, Sokka's being more and more responsible. At the very least, he's not as pro bono about using your position as the Avatar to get what you want.
Yeah.
Katara is learning to kind of relax a bit.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, she has been doing it. Yeah.
And Aang's learned to be a little bit more not only responsible but understand that that there won't always be a perfect solution to the
Yeah,
problem.
but what I noticed too, also with him too, he is learning to be more open too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's that. I actually love how they're really doing these characters. It's amazing.
And now into the meat and potatoes, the storm,
Right.
episode 12.
That was incredible.
Arguably the most important episode of this season so far.
Yeah, it is.
So for those of you who don't know, the storm, episode 12, is the backstory of how Aang got frozen in the block of ice,
Yeah, and
how Zuko got his scar.
Yeah, and
Would you like to take away from this one?
yeah, I can. Yeah, and I mean, just over like it starts at the beginning where like Aang, Qatar, and they they're broke. They don't have any money. They don't have any food. They go to they go down to the market, and they're just looking for food and everything. And then the brother overhears this older couple arguing, and then the the husband says, "You know what? I'll find me somebody else to come fish for me. And I'll pay them more." And Sokka says, "Like, Mom, I'll do it. You're hired." Hires him, and then after that, the wife says, "I sense a storm is coming."
Yeah.
The same thing that Aang told what is her name again?
Katara?
Yeah, Katara in the beginning of the episode. And then it's crazy how as soon as Sokka went with the old man to go fishing, before that happened, the old man had accused Aang of not being there when the fire engine first started attacking.
Over 100 years ago.
Over 100 years ago.
And it's a fair critique. It's a fair criticism too.
It is, but I mean, I get where he's coming from. I'm not denying that. I'm just saying he's a kid.
Yeah.
He's a kid. You can't put all that on him. But I understand why. I understand.
Yeah.
And
And
then
I think the backstory of this episode
Yes.
basically illustrates why that was a bad idea to
Yeah.
put all that on him.
yeah, and then all we know is next is Aang just literally just suddenly out of nowhere just runs away.
Yeah.
Runs away, and then the sister actually gets on the Appa and then finds a small opening up in some mountains. And then he's just sitting there and she asks him, "Is everything all right? You can talk to me." Then this is where everything starts to get juicy. This is where they have an actual conversation and sit down and Aang explains like how 100 years ago him and these other young boys used to airbend for fun, just having a good time. Then his masters called Aang up, and told him he's gonna be the next Avatar. Now,
Can I interject one thing real quick?
yeah,
The reason why this is so significant is that at this point, Aang is 12.
yeah,
And they expressly say, we usually don't tell the Avatar who they are until their 16th birthday.
yeah,
But because they feel that there is war on the horizon,
yeah.
they have to tell them early.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, but even during the time, I felt that was just unnecessary to me. But I get why they were saying, okay, you know what? I sense war's coming, but you're putting too much pressure on him.
Yep.
On a 12-year-old, he's just having fun. That's why I have to appreciate one of his teachers.
Yasu.
Yasu. That Lee was there just playing. I know it's not checkers.
Shogi.
Yeah, Kogi.
It's Shogi.
Shobi. I gotta remember his name.
No, not Shogi. It's not Shogi. My bad. I think it's Shupei?
Yeah, Shupei.
No, Pai Show.
Well,
It's
Pai
Pai
Show.
Show. It's Pai Show.
Okay, Pie Show. And I just appreciate him just literally just being there for him. But I mean, still teaching him, but just let him have some fun as a kid.
Yeah, because because Gyatso is Aang's guardian.
Yeah,
Guardian
guardian.
at that air time.
But I appreciate that. But I'm saying the other folks don't see it that
They
way.
don't.
All they want to see is basically all they want to do is make a weapon out of him.
Yeah.
And I don't appreciate it, but I understand the reasoning though. Don't get me wrong, I understand the reasoning, but it's not. I don't believe the whole entire scenario should be justified based off that.
Yes.
You have to understand. You have to gradually gradually evolve into this, into if you want to, but you have to let this kid have some fun.
Yeah.
It can't be all just seriousness, which is why I appreciate that. And then later on, and then it cuts to Zuko. And then he's on the ship with his uncle and like several of his
Roommates, quarters, that kind of thing.
Yeah, crewmates and everything. Then he sees the storm, and then Zuko and Zuko tells his uncle during the conversation on the ship, to like, I don't care about nobody's safety. To like, I'm here for the Avatar, and one of his crewmates hears it and just goes in on Zuko and tells him like,
Zuko.
Yeah, Zuko, yeah, Zuko, and just tells him like, you know what, like, you ain't nothing. Like, you don't care about nobody but yourself. And then they probably get into a heated fight scene until the uncle says, no, calm down, relax. Just take it easy. And literally, the Ankh goes down somewhere in the bottom of the ship.
Into the engine room.
Yeah, in the engine room, where all the crew members are just they're pissed off. The crew members are just pissed off with Zuko. And I love how the uncle sits down and says, let me explain to you who he truly was before. And when they go into his backstory, I feel sorry for him. I really do feel more sorry for him.
So what we learn basically in both backstories is that Aang, at the age of 12, basically had his childhood ripped away from him because the older monks, barring Gyatso, couldn't see him as anything else but the Avatar. Their reverence and respect for that position blinded them to the fact that there's a reason why they waited till 16.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit here, but there is an episode way later on focusing on Roku. And when he was told he was the Avatar at the age of 16. And how he turned out very differently as a result. Because he was already at a more mature age. He had already gone through adolescence and whatnot and that stuff. But, going back here, with Aang, once again, he's 12. He just invented this new way of getting around on, like, using airbending.
Yes.
And now and his friends, he talks to his friends, they made a game around it, but he suddenly cannot play because now they know he's the Avatar.
Yeah.
And the only fair thing to do is to
play.
not let him play. Despite the fact that nothing's really changed.
No, nothing's changed.
Like realistically, nothing has changed at this point.
All it's just changed is literally just the name. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like, he's just Aang, the Avatar. That's it.
But at the same time, I see where everybody's coming from in Aang's perspective, even Aang. With the monks, they understand there is something coming.
Yeah.
And we have seen through the show at this point, they're not wrong.
No,
They are very much far from wrong.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, they jumped the gun too much.
Yes.
And Gyatso was the only one who could see reason.
Yeah.
Now, I'd also preference that the episode also opened up with Aang having a PTSD nightmare
Yeah,
about him, about
yes.
that he got frozen.
Yes.
But that's basically Aang's backstory. Gyatso stands up, says, no, I'm putting my foot down. As long as I'm his guardian, he will train, but he will also have fun.
Yeah.
And one of the monks takes issue with that and says, you are not seeing him as the actor, you see him as a boy. Well, duh, he's a boy. But even then he says, we're going to separate you two, he's going to Eastern Air Temple, and then we find out that that's when Aang ran away.
Yes.
And immediately after that, as far as he knows, he's waking up to see Katara.
Yeah.
Now Zuko,
Oh, Jesus.
Zuko, on the other hand, instead of running away from his destiny, he was too quick to embrace his destiny.
Yeah,
he wanted to sit in on a war meeting, and one of the guards wouldn't let him in. Rightfully so, makes sense. Iroh, being the cruel uncle that he is, let Zuko in because Zuko did have a sound argument. If I'm going to run this country, I should learn as much as I can now.
Yeah.
Iroh said, okay, but on the condition that you don't say anything.
Just keep your mouth shut no matter how bad it sounds.
And one of the old, and he even said, these older generals, they're very particular about this kind of thing. Now, one of the generals makes a proposition about sending fresh recruits to their deaths in order to make a counterattack from behind. The strategy itself, from that general's point of view, the way he described it, I understand what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But Iroh himself, as the better general who's only ever lost one fight in his career, agreed with Zuko, and Zuko stood up and said, you can't just send people who love our country to their deaths just because.
Yeah, exactly.
But every general took issue with that because he spoke out against them. And the Fire Lord, his dad, Zuko's dad says, well, you've been disrespectful, now you gotta deal with it.
Yeah.
But Zuko thought he was disrespecting the general he spoke out against.
Nah.
And to be fair, to be fair, this general, even all the other generals agreed with Zuko. It's the fact that he was this young kid speaking out against them that they're pissed about. And Iroh even admits, yeah, Zuko was right. He was 100% right to cut this guy out. But he was not supposed to say anything.
Yes.
But Zuko thinks, okay, disrespect, Agni Kai, what they freaking do, I'll beat this old man, no problem. What Iroh basically tells and this is a story that Iroh was telling the crew of Zuko's ship. He basically said what Zuko didn't realize is he may have spoke out against the general, but he spoke out in the Fire Lord's war room.
Yes.
The person he disrespected was his dad.
Yeah.
And Iroh himself, at an early episode, says his brother is a real piece of work.
No, he was, but it was just the look on Zuko's face, like he was in shock, in shock and fear,
because he didn't want to fight his dad.
No, he didn't.
Understandably, like there are very few. If you have, at the very least, if you perceivably have a good relationship with your parents, you don't want to get thrown hands at your parents.
No.
Zuko, once again, that relationship we find out later that his parental life is a little bit Anyway, so it's a very twisted kind of thing.
Yes.
But once again, at Nikai, they have it in front of like all the generals, all the military brass.
Yeah.
And Zuko sees he has to fight his dad. He doesn't want to fight his dad, and his dad goes, "You will fight, or you will be punished." And Zuko still refuses to fight him. So the burn mark on Zuko's face is from his dad.
Yeah.
Basically saying, "You will learn, and pain will be your teacher."
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, we see various characters in the crowd.
Yeah.
One character that is foreshadowed that they don't see like halfway through season 2.
Yeah.
I won't spoil it here.
Yeah.
We see Zhao was in the crowd.
Yeah.
The captain
Yeah.
in the last couple episodes.
And
the only person who looked away
Was
was his uncle.
He looked away, but you could still hear Zuko scream in the background.
And it is a painful one. And the reason why I love this episode is that it also sets up so many things involving Iroh, like a secret technique that he knows later on, and the reason why. And I won't say sets up, but it also brings greater context to an episode way later. Episode in season 3 that makes it even more heartbreaking as to why he looked away.
Yeah.
We'll get to that when we get to that. Put a pin in that and save it.
Yeah.
But this episode is probably the most consequential because this was the episode we got the most amount of answers.
Yeah.
So to the point where even the crew of Zuko's ship who were rightfully furious that he basically disregarded their lives, they got a perspective on it because they thought, and one of the guys even said, we heard that he got scarred in a training accident. No. And I was like, no. His dad, his own father did that to him.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, like, after that, the crew actually had more respect for him.
Yeah.
But even when the storm came, I had more respect for Zuko.
Yeah.
At that point.
Because even though he said all that, when the helmet was about to fall off,
he was hoping.
Who was the first person up that damn ladder? Zuko was the first one up that ladder to say that helped him life. So everybody realized, he talks a big game, but at the end of the day, he's not going to put you guys in danger.
Yeah.
And the reason why that's so important is that once again, it's like one of the guys even says to Iroh, like, this is why he's so hung up with the Avatar. It's his way of coming home because the Fire Lord says, because you refuse to fight, it shows a weakness I cannot tolerate. You are banished until you find the Avatar. A fool's errand at the time. So one of the guys like, so that's why he wants the Avatar. It's his way home. And I was like, more than that, the Avatar is Zuko's symbol of hope. In a twisted way, Aang is the symbol of hope for Zuko as he is the symbol of hope for everybody else on the planet, but it's in a completely twisted way.
Yeah, exactly.
And we basically learned in this episode that these two are more alike than we first
anticipated. They are. They really are. And like
this episode 12, by the way, people.
Yeah, 12 on book 1.
Yes.
And I'm just like, wow. I just love how deep they love to go on certain episodes. I love it. But I especially love his aunt, Zuko's aunt. Man, when that lightning came down that ship, man, his uncle just took that lightning and just threw it right back in the water, right?
Yeah, he threw it in the water.
I was like,
I love how he looked. He was a little bit fried and singed afterwards.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's what he did.
I'm like, oh, uncle, I love you. Oh, I like you.
Yeah, we basically are layering throughout these episodes
Yeah.
that Katara is understanding when to not be as uptight and that there is a time to play for certain
Yeah.
things. Sokka's learning to be more responsible
Yeah.
and more respectful than what he was. Aang's learning that he's going to have to grow up fast.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Zuko is. I would argue his growth hasn't started yet.
Yeah, no, but it is.
But there are hints of
No,
it.
yeah, no, there are. And this is one of them.
Yes.
Again, he could have gone a different direction.
Yeah.
He could have let his crew fall
Yeah.
and not give a fuck.
Yeah. I would argue that what we learned today with Zuko is
Yeah.
that under that stern and pissed demeanor
Yeah,
is that kind young boy that
Yeah.
got scarred by his dad.
Yeah.
He's still in there somewhere.
yeah, of course.
Which makes later episodes more worthwhile.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And we're also learning that Iroh knows what the fuck he's talking about.
Yeah.
It's like we see him as like this jokey dude, but he also
He's wise.
is not even wise. It's just that when he says something, you need to pay attention to it.
Yeah.
Because going back to these older episodes, like knowing what I know about the series now and seeing the stuff he's talking about now, it's like holy crap, they had this stuff thought out already. Or they had an idea about it already.
Yes.
And I think that's the advantage to having a long-form story, because what you can do at that point is that you can basically go, okay, here's our world, you can build up, understand how things work. Here are some things you want to do. Here are some things we have ideas for that we definitely want to do. But let's just work on getting some of the basic stuff in there,
Yeah.
and then later on we deliver on it.
Yeah.
And they do a fantastic job working that stuff in.
Oh yeah.
So once again, I'm having a blast revisiting the last episode.
I definitely
I
am.
am.
I definitely am.
Jesus. And the amount of creativity on display with how they problem solve a lot of the episodes.
Mind blowing.
Once again, the subject matter they touch upon. Once again, we're talking about this episode alone. We're talking about a 12-year-old
With PTSD.
guilt-ridden who has PTSD
At 12 years old.
at 12. Don't mind that. It's July 3rd. We're about to have fireworks go off.
I keep forgetting that. My bad.
I don't know if y'all picked that up, but right now it is July 3rd. Tomorrow is July 4th. Once again, we live in the southern United States, so guess what that means?
Fireworks. Pop out.
Fireworks before is the 4th of July.
Yes.
Now, back to it. But back to it. Yeah, no. Avatar: Last Airbender is, I won't say an underrated classic. It's just a classic.
No, it is. It really is a classic.
I can't find a single person who legitimately despises the show in its entirety.
Oh man, if somebody does, they are really delusional. Cause I don't understand how.
And if you are one,
I mean, that's fine if you do. I'm just the only thing I'm saying delusional. I just don't understand why. I want to understand why, but
so I will take this time to say, if you are someone who actually doesn't like Avatar: Last Airbender, I mean the show, not the movie. That's a different thing entirely.
No.
If you dislike the show, please sound up in the comments.
Yeah.
I want to hear it. I really do, because I want to see what this opinion is.
Yeah, I really do. I'm actually curious because I haven't heard anybody either that says they don't like Avatar. But if you do, I really want to know why. I really want to know why. 'Cause I want to have a conversation.
Like no being ironic.
No,
being
I really
legitimately
do.
want to know.
I'm really curious.
So yeah, but yeah. With that being said, we're going to call it there today.
Yeah.
And next week we'll be doing episodes 13, 14, and 15.
Yeah. Yep.
So this has been Showtime Showcase. I've been your host Anansi. This has been your host X. We will see you next week.